Welcome, Mailo. I'm so excited to have you here with me this morning. I know you have an extremely busy schedule, so I appreciate taking the time out. And I know that busy schedule is documented in some way, but there's a lot of undocumented help that you give to fellow business people and entrepreneurs as well. So I look forward to our chat, and I'm sure we are going to run over, but I'll try and get through as much as I can. If you don't mind, without getting down to the business too early, I did notice in some of my research, it looks like your first passion was art. Would I be correct?
Yes, well, first of all, thank you for having me, Stephanie. It's a great pleasure to be with you today. And yes, I suppose a lot of people don't realize that I have a master's in fine art. And that my initial business journey was actually as an interior. Well, I started off doing chemistry, physics, and biomaths in UCC, and then I got married at 19 and moved to the UK. And my first business was actually interior designer. I was actually used to do mostly in the UK. I did houses and that. And then when we moved back to Ireland, and that, so I did up the Great Southern in Rosslare, and then it became hotels. But my first passion has always been back since my Holy Communion. I got a gift of a little plaque of a Madonna and Child, and that stirred my interest in Raphael and the impression and the Renaissance. So right from the start of my life, creativity and art has been a huge driving force. And in many ways, I think as an artist, and that you have the eyes to see. So, for example, when I go walking on the beach, most people see a clean beach. I see the tiny little bits of plastic, coloured plastic in the sand. So, I have a very, I suppose, I suppose an artistic eye, and also I think to create change, you have to think differently.
Oh, certainly, absolutely, and that is some start to get from chemistry to art into business. And Waterford is your home. And originally, I'm not a Waterford person, but my mother is from Ardmore,
Oh,
in Waterford. There, beautiful, beautiful place there. Spent many a summer holiday there. I see you come for full circle back home then. What was the draw to come back from the UK?
Well, initially we came back because my son was getting to the stage of making Holy Communion, and we kind of thought from an education point of view, if we didn't move then, and that so they would be entrenched in the English education system. Mind you, full circle, he's living over there now again, and that so but when we came home from Ireland, my or to Ireland, my daughter was just coming up to 3, and my son was 7, and that so my husband was in the hotel business, so we came home to the Great Southern in Rosslare, and then we travelled around Ireland, and that so Rosslare. Then he was manager of Mount up in Clare, and then Mount Juliet, and that so then I came back. He was initially started the Three Rivers Guest House. And 3 months after we bought it, he went to Mount Juliet. So I came back to run that, and that so. And at the time, I was doing about 8 hotels a year with interior design. But I was based out of Waterford, and then ran the Three Rivers for 7 years.
Wow, that's it. As I said on my intro, that's a busy lady there. So let's kick off with the monkey cups. And you mentioned the word change there and how you view things there when you were talking about the artistic eye. How did that come into what I read on the kitchen table?
Okay, so from the Three Rivers Guest House, which I ran for 7 years, and that so my husband then he wanted to kind of he felt he was at the stage of his career that he wanted our own hotel. So the opportunity came up on to buy Rockland's house, which was on the banks of the River Shore. And that's, interestingly enough, we bought it because Waterford had just held an international architectural competition for a venue building, and so we were only 30 years too early. It's so it's now taking, although we actually moved therefore, is now starting to take root. So it was quite funny, and I took a 3-bedroomed house to a 4-star boutique hotel with 30 bedrooms, 120-seater restaurant, conference rooms, meeting rooms, and we opened in 2003. And then my area then was, I used to do the finances, and when I saw firsthand the growth of the coffee industry, but also the amount of disposable cups we as a hotel were using. So research underpins everything that I do. So I did some research as to how a hotel of our size was going through so many disposable cups. And I discovered that so all our staff were on average drinking 3 and 4 cups of coffee a day. Our corporate guests were in the morning would leave with a disposable cup in their hand, and then our corporate guests who had meetings in the hotel would leave at 5 or 6 o'clock with a disposable cup. The other thing that was, I suppose, a driving force is that most of the cups on the market, and even to this day, don't fit under the group head of the barista machine. So what was happening is somebody would come with a reusable cup, but the member of staff would actually make the coffee in a disposable cup, then pour it in into the reusable, and they would go off happy. But the cup would be in the bin, and it would last for roughly 250 years. And another thing that people don't realize is that although a lot of disposable cups say that they're recyclable, because of the film that actually makes them waterproof, that requires special recycling, but there isn't that many of those places in Ireland. So in actual fact, probably less than 5% of those that say they're recyclable actually do end up getting recycled. So I decided that we had to do something. We couldn't continue to actually create so much waste that was absolutely needless. So I decided for all our regulars, I would get custom branded reusable cups. And so the only ones I could get were Keep Cups, which were the world leader and still are an Australian company. They're a world leader in the space. And but their minimum order was 280. And it was very expensive to actually get custom branding back then. And so I said, this is ridiculous. You know, we're going to an Australian company. So I tried to get one in Ireland, and there wasn't. So I sat down that evening, and I was starting to brainstorm on paper, as I do. And I did a sketch, which is actually very similar to what our cup is today. And so it hasn't deviated very much. And then I took my drawings to a friend of mine. I was showing them, and they said, well, you have, go ahead, go run with it. And as an interior designer and project manager, I actually used to do turnkey packages. So I designed carpets, curtains, fabrics, etc., and crockery. So it doesn't sound as random when you actually realize my background as to a hotelier doing a sketch on the kitchen table, and that's so. But so then I had the design, and I looked at different names like To Go Cup, On the Go Cup, Bring Your Own Cup, but nothing said what I was trying to do, and that was create change from disposable to reusable. So I went back to my college days, and my elective was psychology when I was doing my art. And I said, well, what did I learn in social change class? And for me, it was the 100th Monkey, Phenomenal Social Change.
I read it.
Yeah,
Phenomenal.
and it's amazing because there's two interesting things there. That one is that a little 18-month-old macaque monkey. They're the monkeys that sit in the pools of water
Yeah.
in the jungle. So that little monkey changed the whole habit for her entire species. But the other interesting thing is that most social change comes from the top down to the young, so from older to younger. But in this case, it was a young monkey and it came up the way. And so that's why it became the Monkey Cup.
Yeah, I just read about that, how you got to the 100th monkey and the habit and creating the new norm. And I went, that is phenomenal. Because when I first saw the name, I was going, where did that come from? Did the bit of research and I went, makes sense after speaking to you, it makes more sense even to that. Can I ask you, like obviously you've run more than one business now. Do you, if you look back, would you have done anything of it differently, or do you find that's what makes you?
There's lots of things I would have done differently. And so one of the things that I've learned, and I've grown from a business perspective over the last year, and that is I was very lucky to be chosen as one of the 16 members of Network Ireland, and also 16 women from the North, women in business, to take part in a Grow All Ireland programme. And that was 6 months of intensive training. And during that time, I actually learned a lot about thinking strategically. And in many ways, that is something new. I always kind of, I suppose everything that I did was either, it was actually addressing an issue, and that so, or I saw something that needed doing, and there was a gap. Like for example, Winterval in Waterford, which is one of the
Yeah.
largest festivals. I started that along with three others, 12 years ago now, because we saw that it was after 2008, and there was businesses that weren't going to be in business in January if we didn't do something to increase the footfall in Waterford. Barry Monaghan he was the main, I suppose, spearhead behind it, and he brought a group of us together, and we created Winterwell, so we were addressing an issue, and the amazing thing is that it's continued to flourish, and every year it brings
Mm.
over 500,000 people to Waterford. But now I've learned that thinking strategically can in many ways help you get to a certain place much faster. And since the program, I've expanded the business by over 200%.
Wow, my goodness, that was
Yeah,
certainly
yeah,
an impact on
absolutely.
your journey there.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, we've all got to go through the pitfalls. I've been through them myself, and looking back, and sometimes you can't put the old head on young shoulders. Um, but I was just looking at, there was two ladies. They've set up a bag brand called Flanta. It's actually, we thought it was an Irish name. It's actually it's not. It's Greek goddess of confidence, and it was two
Okay.
women that have just set up. They only actually set up in October 2023, and they're already
Okay.
in, I think, 16 countries. And I
Fantastic.
think, yeah, and I think gathering from what you are speaking with and what they have encountered along the way is encouragement. I think that is encouragement and belief. And they said they knew nothing about business, they knew nothing about that. But what one of the things they were saying is, how do you start? They were kind of going, we've got an idea, we don't know whether to go to a manufacturer. You've brought your manufacturing back into Waterford there. I mean, how do you go about some of those things if people are out there? It's great having ideas. We can all sit around the table and have our cup of coffee and go, oh, this, and this. But how would you say to somebody, you've had a lot of support there as well. How would, if I was starting today with any idea, where would I go to, do you think?
Well, I'll give you two examples from my
Mm.
own career that had led to me starting businesses, and how they were completely different in one way, but very similar in another. So if you take my interior design business in Ireland, and that's so I came back to Ireland and I was doing mostly houses, and I would make the curtains, and I would make the throws and the festoon blinds and the cushions, etc. And I did up the old lighthouse keeper's house. It was the house, the last house going down to Rosslare to the down to the harbour. That house, and it was when I arrived there, back home to Ireland. The paint was falling off the walls, and that's so. And I walked in and everybody was saying they can't live there, and I was saying no, it'll be lovely. I'll do this, that, and the other, and it ended up being absolutely amazing. It was just stunning. It had the deep wall, the windowsills, and I painted in the shutters, etc., and little flowers in the shutters, etc. But anyway, the chief executive of Great Southern Hotels came for afternoon tea one day. And Eamon McKeown, he died during COVID, and he was one of my, I suppose, champions and a mentor, and such an amazing man in the Irish tourism industry. He was chair of ITIC as well in latter years. But he then asked me would I do the Great Southern in Rosslare. Which I did, and they were under time pressure, and I got it done and everything, and that. So then he invited me to a meeting in Limerick with Murray O'Leary Architects. So I thought I was just kind of sitting in on the meeting. And by the end of the meeting, so Hugh Murray said to me, we expect to see the scheme boards in 3 weeks of the entire project. And I'm there going, okay, and smiling sweetly. And I would go downstairs anyway and walking out to the car with him. And I said, first of all, what are scheme boards? And secondly, what does he mean? And he said, oh, by the way, he said, you're doing the interior design of the entire project, which was a couple of million project. It was changing the International Hotel to the Great Southern in Shannon Airport, but it was also extending, and there was construction, etc., etc. And I said, no way. And he said, yes. He said, I knew if I asked you, you wouldn't, and told you, you wouldn't come. So he said, I expect to see them in 3 weeks' time. And it's just all your ideas for each area on a board. And I went, no. And he said, yes. And I went, okay. And that's so, and then 3 weeks later, I delivered all the scheme boards, designed all the carpets, curtains, and furniture, the whole lot. And it was a huge success. So he believed in me.
Right.
And sometimes you don't believe in yourself. But having a mentor is so important. And then if you fast forward to I bringing my drawings to Laurent Borlap, who's an incredible mentor and very good friend of mine, and he's in pharmaceuticals and the manufacturing of pharmaceuticals and the supply chain of pharmaceuticals. And he said, you need to go see Leo. And he said, I'll make the appointment. So he made the appointment with Jackie Gall of Leo. And so I brought all my drawings, and Jackie said, well, what do you want us to do? And I said, well, I don't know. And she said, well, how about we start with the feasibility study? So I said yes, and I thought that was a good idea. So what I didn't realize that the feasibility study was to explore if there was an opening for that business, and that. But by the end of the feasibility study, I actually had the design and the block of steel and the mold, and we were already ready for production. We actually had prototypes, and then we launched at Showcase 19, and then the journey began. So very much if you have an idea, in many cases, Leo is the first port of call.
Okay.
And so they will then provide mentorship and guidance. I was lucky that I had that in my network, and but if you actually go to Leo, they will actually, and don't be frightened to actually, some people hold on to their ideas and kind of feel that other people might either take it or might rubbish it. But you actually, if you believe in it and you have a passion, take that step. And that's something that I've learned. You asked me earlier, what would I do differently? I think I probably believe in my kind of look at what you do and look at your talents, and if you find your passion, believe in that passion and believe that you can make a difference. I saw a fantastic sweatshirt recently, and it said, "It's only one cup," said 1 million people. And it just goes to show that, if we all think that we can't make a difference,
Yeah.
then we'll all be paralyzed. Whereas if we actually believe that we can actually make a difference, then in many ways we can.
Yeah. I think that's great advice, because I think, that belief we do hinder ourselves by our own confidence, don't we? And as you say, there's no point in having the best secret if you're just going to hang on to it yourself. But there's times, and I know I've been through this myself, there's times where you're overwhelmed. We've been through COVID, we've been through recessions, that overwhelming, that the energy starts to sap out of you. Have you any advice for anybody because there's always dark days. Nothing is ever, we'd all be doing it if it was easy, and it's not easy. But those moments where you get I can't do this anymore, don't want to get up. What can people do to help themselves?
Well, interesting that you should ask that, Stephanie, because while I was preparing for Network Ireland national final interviews, there just 2 weeks ago, and so I kind of reflected back into my own journey, and as regards to networking, and I went back to that 19-year-old pregnant teenager, and my husband used to go to work today at 12 and wouldn't be home till tomorrow at 7 o'clock, and I was having panic attacks. I didn't know what they were then, but I couldn't breathe. So I would actually go outside just to take a breath of fresh air. I now know that was a panic attack. So I actually reckoned that this wouldn't get me anywhere, and I actually joined a prenatal group, and we supported each other, and we also learned together, and we shared our journey. And out of that, then we developed a mother and toddler group, and that's so. And but I think there was a lesson there in actually reaching out. If you're stuck, Network Ireland for women in business is an incredible network, because if you're facing a challenge or if you're facing an issue, there's somebody in the room with you who also has faced that issue. And I think asking for help and reaching out and that so is a huge is a huge part of getting over those dark days. And also for me is walking. And that so I find that that's how I actually, one of 90% of our business is custom branding, and that began as a result of COVID. And that's so because when we launched at Showcase in 2019, we were targeted 100% to the hospitality industry. And I was trying to address an issue that we had, and so was everybody that I met at Showcase. And that's so we were very much hospitality industry. So then when COVID hit in March of 2020, I had over 1,000 cups in production, and 100% for the hospitality industry, and there was 50 of them were paid for and not the rest. And that's so I basically panicked for the first week. Then I reckoned, well, this isn't going to get you anywhere. So I reached out to all the different people and I said, look, I know the doors have closed, but I've outlaid this money. Can we start a payment plan and work out a payment plan? I don't care how small it is, but if you could think of me on a monthly basis with just a small amount, then and that's so. And most of the orders were around the 50. And that was our minimum order for the custom branding. And so we worked our way through that. But the other thing I did was when I was dealing with 2008, when the financial crisis happened and business fell by 48% in 1 month. And so walking in Mount Congreve Gardens kept my head sane. So in COVID, I started walking again. I live in Dunmore East, which is beautiful by the beach,
nice.
by the sea. So I was blessed to be locked down there. But I saw loads of courier vans. And so I said, well, people are buying, and that's what makes people buy online. So again, I did some research, and custom branding was and personalization. What not so much custom branding, but personalization was a key driver for buying online. So with the help of the Leo again trading online voucher, I created a create your own section on the website. Where you can, we have 1,444 color combinations. You can pick your own lid, your own band, your own slider, and make the combination and that. So, and we do the assembly based on lean processes. So although it sounds like a lot, the colors are very much, all in color coding, etc. So then I started saying, well, what businesses are open? And so I started to look at businesses that were actually had either staff working from home. So I looked at care packs, sent out all the personal notes. And then I also looked at companies that, had computers at home. So it was the closed lid policy. So I actually, and when we launched the Create Your Owns on the website, we did more business that weekend than we had done in the previous 3 months.
That's funny, isn't it? I mean, it's gas where you're launching yourself in 2019. I do remember myself in 2020 thinking this is the year. What I didn't realize was what was the year for. But you're right. You can be paralyzed by that. And, I think if you can go back to confidence, which we spoke about, and say that how can you turn the crisis into an opportunity? Just by, as you opened the interview on talking about how you look at things differently. So it can be an opportunity instead of a crisis. And is there, I'm afraid to ask what the future is for for you, because I feel like I could speak here all day. You're very interesting, Mailo. It's phenomenal. You give great encouragement, I hope, to anybody who's watches this video, and certainly from the first time I spoke to you, you certainly, I hope you can see my face. I'm actually enthralled listening, and congratulations for all your nominations and your awards and that.
Thank you.
I am going to let you go, much to my dismay, but I could talk to you all day, and I hope we might get an opportunity to talk again.
Absolutely, Stephanie. So it's been a pleasure getting to know you as well, and and sharing part of the journey. Just one little milestone that we had this week is we delivered 1,500 cups to Boston Scientific in Clonmel, and it's part of going single-use plastic free cups in the plant. So those cups will save over 15,000 a week. And that's so going to landfill. And I think that in many ways it's the impact of the reusables, and it's the impact that we can have with both personally and in business, that keeps me going and keeps me driving forward.
Well, I'm not surprised, because I recommend anybody look up that story of the 100th monkey on your website there, because it certainly should give us all encouragement that no point in standing to one side and leaving it to somebody else's problem to do something. So I will certainly take encouragement, and as you say, start preaching to everybody else. Thank you.
It's more than that. Rather than preaching, it's more about inspiring others, and also kind of you be the everybody is the change. And I think for everybody out there who's looking, and if they have an idea, run with it. I think don't be afraid to take that first step.
No, I think anybody listening to this will certainly be educated enough to have that bit of confidence now to take the next step. Thank you so much, Mailo.
Thank you, Stephanie.
We'll catch up soon.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.